You ever have one of those moments? It's 3 a.m. and you're staring at the blinking cursor on your laptop that project proposal is on its 37th draft, but the hollow ache in your chest just won't go away. A coworker walks by with a coffee, pats your shoulder, and says, "Hang in there. Land this account, and you'll get that promotion. It's worth it, right?" You try to force a smile, but your throat feels like it's stuffed with cotton. Or do you remember that time you went hiking with a friend? Halfway up the mountain, a downpour starts. You're frantically checking the weather app, muttering, "Why didn't this damn thing warn me?" But your friend just crouches down, plucks a leaf glistening with raindrops, and says, "Look at the way the water beads on this leaf. Isn't that more interesting than a forecast?" In that instant, it hits you. When was the last time you just wasted time watching the rain? It feels like you're wearing a perfectly comfortable pair of shoes, but everyone's screaming at you to step into their footprints. It's like you just want to sit back with a bowl of popcorn and watch a messy, brilliant movie, but someone keeps shoving a script in your face, yelling, "Stick to the lines." If any of these scenes make your chest tighten, you're in the right place. This isn't some corner store selling life hacks for success. This is a patch of shade where your soul can finally breathe. And trust me, you're not the only one who feels this way. Drop an "I get it" in the comments and see how many others are on the same frequency. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once wrote, "Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced." It sounds simple, but there's a secret locked inside that line. Have you noticed how we're all living like overclocked machines? As kids, we were told, if you fall, get back up, but no one ever taught us, it's okay to cry when it hurts. As we got older, we were bombarded with noise. By 30, you should have a house and 2.5 kids, but whoever asks, "Hey, when was the last time you had a hot meal that wasn't eaten over a keyboard at 2 a.m.? We devour books on the 10 steps to success, schedule our weekends in spreadsheets, and calculate the ROI of our relationships like a stock portfolio. We have turned our lives into code that needs to be debugged. It's like we've put life under a glass domino wind, no rain, perfectly safe. But have you ever seen a flower truly flourish under glass? Those questions that bubble up in the dead of night, those moments you stare at society's perfect life checklist and feel absolutely nothing that's your soul, gently tapping on your shoulder. You don't need a destination. You need the crunch of gravel under your feet, the wind in your hair, and the unexpected wildflower you stumble upon when you're completely lost. In 1957, the brilliant Swedish filmmaker Ingmar Bergman gave the world one of cinema's most powerful images. In his masterpiece, The Seventh Seal, a medieval knight, his soul weary from the Crusades, returns home to find his land ravaged by plague. On a desolate, windswept beach, he encounters the personification of death, but instead of surrendering, he challenges death to a game of chess. This is not a game played merely for survival, but a desperate negotiation for answers. The knight hopes that by stalling the final checkmate, he can unlock the secrets of a grand and silent existence. He wants to know if God truly exists in the face of so much suffering, if there is any meaning to the pain he has witnessed and endured, and if death is truly the final, silent end. This haunting image is a mirror to our own souls. It resonates with a startling depth, reflecting the condition of modern man. Because we, like that knight, are sitting at the cosmic chessboard, constantly moving our pieces, trying to outwit a fate we can never fully control. We bargain with reality, with destiny, with the very nature of life itself. We believe that with the right strategy, the perfect move, we can solve the puzzle and finally win the game against death and doubt. But Kierkegaard warns us that this is the ultimate tragedy of the intellect, the great trick our minds play on our souls. In our frantic attempt to dissect life, to explain it, to fit it into neat, logical boxes, we lose the very thing we are trying to grasp. The more we try to seize it with the cold tools of reason, the more it slips like fine sand through our fingers. We get so busy analyzing the map that we forget to experience the terrain. We become spectators to our own existence, critics in the audience, judging and planning every scene, but never truly stepping onto the stage to live with raw and burning passion. There is a profound tragedy in this pursuit, the silent sigh at the heart of a world that has forgotten how to be. This was the Danish philosopher's insight, all the way back in the 19th century. To him, life was not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be lived and embraced in all its raw, unpredictable, and often paradoxical nature. Kierkegaard saw humanity as a glorious and painful duality, torn between two irreconcilable dimensions, the finite and the infinite. We are finite beings, bound by time, trapped in flesh and bone, rooted in the physical reality of this world. And yet, in the depths of our souls, we are tormented by a divine hunger for the infinite. We yearn for absolute knowledge, for eternal purpose, for a transcendence that can lift us beyond our mortal limits. It is this fundamental anguish, this sacred tension between our earthly chains and our heavenly longings, that drives us to construct systems. Some take refuge in what Kierkegaard called the aesthetic stage. This is the realm of sensory pleasure, a dive into the ocean of momentary gratification, a constant search for what is missing. It is the life of the seducer, the fleeting artist, living for the next thrill, the next sensation, the next beautiful distraction. They try to fill the void with an endless stream of experiences, believing that in the sheer volume of moments, they will find the essence of life. But the aesthetic life is fragile. Its greatest enemy is boredom, and its constant companion is the shadow of despair. Pleasure, no matter how intense, always fades, leaving behind only the echo of emptiness and the soul's deep cry for something more solid, more lasting. Others, weary of the hollowness of fleeting pleasure, enter the ethical stage. They embrace duty, obligation, and moral order, seeking stability and meaning through conformity to social norms, through marriage, a career, and becoming a pillar of the community. The ethical life is a fortress against the chaos of existence. It offers security, a set of rules that make life predictable. For the ethical man, meaning is found in coherence, in order, in the construction of a solid, respectable identity. He wants to be dependable, predictable, and a man of his word. But Kierkegaard reveals that even this noble stage is often a more sophisticated form of existential procrastination. Morality, social norms, and a sense of duty can become just another system, another cage safer and more respectable than the aesthetic one, but still an attempt to control the uncontrollable, to escape the direct confrontation with the absurd and with one's own radical, terrifying freedom. Because there are moments in life profound love, extreme suffering, a divine calling that universal ethics cannot contain or explain. And so, we arrive at the final, and most mysterious, of Kierkegaard's stages, the religious stage. This has nothing to do with joining a church or adopting a creed. It is the most private, subjective, and terrifying journey a soul can take. It is the realm of paradox, absurdity, and the leap of faith. And it is here that Kierkegaard introduces one of philosophy's most profound and controversial concepts, the teleological suspension of the ethical. The phrase might sound like a distant academic puzzle at first, but its meaning strikes at the very heart of human experience. Teleological comes from the Greek word telos, meaning end or purpose. When Kierkegaard speaks of a teleological suspension of the ethical, he means that there are situations where an individual, driven by a higher, absolute purpose, must suspend, or temporarily set aside, universal ethical rule. This is not a disregard for ethics, not an immoral life, but an acknowledgement that some experiences are so profound, so radical, that they operate entirely beyond the scope of ordinary ethical standards. The most famous and unsettling example is the story of Abraham from the Old Testament. God commands Abraham to sacrifice his son, Isaac, the son of promise, the heir who would make Abraham the father of a great nation. From a human, moral, ethical standpoint, this command is both monstrous and absurd. No ethical system can justify the murder of an innocent child. But in Fear and Trembling, Kierkegaard argues that Abraham is not a murderer, nor is he a fanatic. He is a knight of faith. He suspends the ethical, not because he disdains morality, but because he is obedient to an absolute calling that cannot be translated into ethical language, that cannot be understood by others. A direct, absolute relationship with the absolute, with God. This divine engagement places Abraham in a state of terrible loneliness. He cannot explain his actions to his wife, to his servants, or even to Isaac. If he were to say, "I am going to kill my son because God commanded me," he would be seen only as a madman or a criminal. As Kierkegaard writes, if there is no God, Abraham is nothing more than a murderer. But if there is a God, he is the highest example of faith. And this is the most unsettling part of Kierkegaard's thought. Faith is not rational certainty. It is living in paradox and contradiction. It requires the highest courage of the individual to act without guarantees, to face the abyss, and to risk everything for something no one else can see or understand. This is the drama of the leap. The leap of faith is not a leap into a void of nothingness. It is a leap into a darkness where the individual still trusts, profoundly, that something exists beyond their capacity to comprehend it. It's like being trapped in a burning building and having to jump from the window. There is no guarantee of survival, but staying put is certain death. The leap, then, becomes a desperate but passionate bet that there is solid ground on the other side. As he writes in Fear and Trembling, faith begins precisely where thinking leaves off. True faith only emerges when all around you seems absurd, when logic screams that you should not go on. This leap is not just religious in an institutional or dogmatic sense. Kierkegaard sees faith as an existential stance, the decision to live fully, knowing that life is paradoxical, fragile, and uncertain, to love deeply, knowing it can lead to pain, to commit to a cause, knowing you may not see the result, to have children, write a book, create art, start a business, or move to a new city, knowing it may not all work out. In this sense, faith is the courage to be, the courage to participate in life, rather than just observe it. The leap of faith is a radical rejection of the role of the spectator. Many people, Kierkegaard says, live as if they are watching a play, analyzing, judging, critiquing, but never stepping onto the stage. Faith is stepping into the scene, even with trembling and fear. And this touches the core, the word that runs like a red thread through all of Kierkegaard's work, anxiety, or angst in his native Danish. For him, anxiety is not just an unpleasant feeling to be eliminated. It is the most profound and sacred sign of human freedom. He defines anxiety as the dizziness of freedom. It is the vertiginous sense of emptiness that rises when the individual realizes they are free to choose, when they stand before an almost infinite field of possibilities. Anxiety is not the same as fear. Fear has a specific object. Fear of losing your job, fear of death, fear of the dark. Anxiety is more diffuse, a deep-seated unease in the face of the sheer openness of what could be. And it is here that our philosophies, religions, moral codes, and even our scientific systems come into play. All of these human constructions are, more or less, defenses against anxiety, offering explanations, rules, and the promise of meaning. They are the walls we build to avoid facing the void. But Kierkegaard is relentless on this point. These systems are often just forms of existential procrastination. While we are busy trying to understand or organize life, we stop living it. We become spiritually absent from our own present moment, numbed by the illusion of control. The very anxiety that could be the sacred engine for a more passionate, authentic life gets buried under routine, dogma, and false certainty. After journeying through the labyrinth of Kierkegaard's thought, one thing becomes undeniably clear. Life is not a puzzle to be solved, leading to some ultimate state of peace. There is no magic formula, no philosophical or religious system that can protect us from chaos, loss, emptiness, or death. These are part of the reality of existence. Life, Kierkegaard insists, is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be lived. For many, this conclusion feels almost like a condemnation. Wouldn't it be more comfortable to have all the answers? Wouldn't it be safer to have a manual that tells us who to be, what to do, and how to guarantee happiness? But what Kierkegaard gives us is something far more precious than certainty. He gives us freedom. And freedom, as we've seen, is a double-edged sword. To be free to live is to be fully responsible for one's choices. It is to embrace uncertainty, knowing that in the end, No one can live our lives for us. It is to move forward with passion, knowing there are no guarantees. It is to endure the dizziness of anxiety and still choose to be. The knight in the seventh seal plays chess with death, believing that if he can just buy more time, he will receive an answer that will finally set him free. But for Kierkegaard, true freedom lies in putting down the chessboard, in stopping the negotiation with death, with fate, with the ultimate meaning of things, and instead, throwing oneself into the sheer experience of it. Because it is in the particulars of existence, in joy and in pain, in laughter and in tears, that life truly reveals itself. The wisdom Kierkegaard leaves us with is not to know more, but to live more. Not to have all the answers, but to endure the questions. Not to eliminate anxiety, but to walk with it, and to use it as the fuel for a more passionate existence. And now I ask you, what is your chessboard? What is the game you are playing today that is keeping you in the mode of solving life instead of living it? Share your journey, your thoughts, your awakenings in the comments below. Let's build a community of souls who dare to take the leap.